For so long, many of us have tried to do things on our own strength and in our own ways, trying to figure out how to do life just in a bubble. But what if what we really need more than anything is not more of our own strength, but to be connected to a community that draws us nearer to the strength of Jesus and allows us to be known and loved in a way that changes everything? And could it be the case that that's exactly what Celebrate Recovery is all about? Today, we're going to talk about the value of connection and community.
Recovery can be hard, but it's worth it. There is hope knowing we can find healing one step at a time with Jesus and healthy community. Whether you're struggling with a hurt or a hang-up or a habit, you're not alone. During this podcast, we share real stories, practical tools, and powerful truths that inspire you to keep moving forward. No matter where you are on your journey, there's hope ahead. So stick with us as we walk this path together through Celebrate Recovery.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Hope in Recovery, a Celebrate Recovery podcast here at Fellowship Bible Church of Northwest Arkansas, a place for us to share life change stories and conversations around recovery to keep us moving closer together towards Jesus and the healing and hope that he offers. And we're so glad that you're joining us today. And if you've been listening for a while and these conversations are beneficial to you and helping you step forward in your recovery, hey, please, would you just mind sharing this? Would you mind giving this a 5-star rating? It actually really does help to get the word out and to keep these messages of hope and healing and life change just in front of everybody that needs it, just like we do. And so, share this, give it a 5-star rating. We really, really appreciate it. And we're super excited for our conversation today. But let me go ahead and introduce myself. I am a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with anxiety and depression, sexual addiction, and grief. And my name is Andy.
Hey, Andy.
Hey, man. And I've got the great privilege of being able to serve as the ministry leader for Celebrate Recovery down at Fellowship Fayetteville. And with me is my good friend and cohort,
confidant,
comrade.
Yes.
Would you
All
go
of those
ahead?
things.
Yeah. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, so I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, struggle with sexual addiction, codependency, food issues, and pride. And my name is Michael, and serve as the ministry team lead up here at Fellowship Rogers. So
Yeah, you do, man.
Yeah, man.
So excited for this conversation
good
today.
Topic.
Yeah.
Good topic.
You know, one of the things that, as we've been kind of talking about as a team in some of our conversations is just some of the values of Celebrate Recovery and two that we've really leaned into and have felt really compelling for us are the ideas of community and connection, healthy community and connection.
Because you can have unhealthy community.
You sure can, and you can have unhealthy connection too.
I've had those.
Yeah, but
So,
when we think about connection itself, when you think of the word connection, what do you think of, and what do you think of in the context of recovery? Let's say maybe what that looked like for you before you got into recovery.
Yeah, so I know us talking about this, Andy, you had even talked about connection of like literally like connected, like you connect a trailer or you connect a plug or like just the general kind of thought of the word connection is like something is broken or not, is kind of isolated by itself, but then all of a sudden you connect it together.
Yeah.
And so in regards to recovery, I always think through the lens of connection with the 3 most important relationships in my life. So connection with God is one important relationship. Connection with other people is really important. And then healthy connection with myself.
Yeah.
Being connected with what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's going on in my heart, and being connected with those spaces. Even for me, like connection with my physical body, it's kind of like my wife and I joke. It's like I can be walking around and it's like, man, like my leg hurts. And she's like, it's broken. And I'm like, oh yeah. It's like, just that awareness. It's kind of like just being distanced. And so I think, and to answer your question, connection and recovery, I think about really relationships is the big piece of that.
Yeah, but I think I definitely agree with that. And those three relationships that you just teased out there, connection with God, connection with others, connection with myself, those are so key. And I know for me, just kind of thinking about why is connection so important? Because I remember what it's like to live in a constant state of disconnection in my life. And I think I think through my life and my story, I lived with a 13-year addiction to pornography. And one of the things that was going on in that is that I was living in a way disconnected from God. Not that I wasn't a follower of Jesus even during that time, but because of my denial in that, I had disconnected a part of my heart from God, and in a way I was trying to shield that from God, but also I was disconnected from myself emotionally. I was running to not just pornography, but alcohol and relationships and so many things to kind of numb myself from my own heart and my own emotions, but I was also disconnecting myself from others in that too. And when I did finally get to a point where I'm like, hey, this is a little bit of an issue, saying that kind of tongue in cheek, it was a giant issue, but in my denial, I was maybe this is a problem.
Just get it checked
but I can remember what I tried to do is I tried to go, man, the idea of trying to connect to other people in this, no way. Let me, rather than connecting to my source of power, which is God, let me connect just into my own thinking and logic. And I can remember just a really, poignant example of this in my life. I remember going into a Christian bookstore when I was in college. I was like, you know what? I am struggling with sexual addiction, and I wasn't ready to call it that. I had a problem with pornography is what I was probably willing to say at the time. And maybe I need to read a book. And if I can just read this book and understand what's going on, I can fix this unwanted behavior
by myself.
And what's funny is I walked into this Christian bookstore and I was looking for books, but I noticed that there was a pretty girl behind the counter, and I was too embarrassed to buy the book that I really wanted to buy. And it's what's funny is on the discount shelf, I wasn't even willing to pay full price. On the discount shelf, there was a book on gambling addiction, and I bought that.
Wow.
I still have that book. I never cracked it open to read it, but I still have that book. But like I bring that up because I think so often whenever we're at that point of starting to step into Celebrate Recovery, we've lived our lives in a state of disconnection.
Isolation.
Isolation for a really long time. And what I love is that, man, Celebrate Recovery has been a source of connection for me. And I know it's been for you, man. And so how has how have you seen connection happen in your life through Celebrate Recovery?
I think just really I think it's given me Celebrate Recovery, working through the step study. It's given me more insight, and I'm still learning, but more insight on how I'm designed, how God designed me, and then how God is designed. And so the idea of, I always go back, I had a guy in when I was growing up in the church I grew up, he said, one day I'm going to write a book that said everything I learned about God, I learned in the Garden of Eden. That's such an interesting, because it's like, man, the Lord created Adam. Everything's good. Oh, wait, this is not good. It's not good that man should be alone. And so he created Eve. And so just from the dawn of time, God has said, oh yeah, I didn't make you to be alone. I didn't. And so I think that addiction piece of me, it was it was driving me to live against how I was designed.
Yeah.
And so I think in recovery, there's so much just natural, like, all right, go to share groups. All right, go to join a step study. All right, who's your sponsor? Okay, who's your accountability partner? Okay, like you're going to do this, you got to start serving and get connected with people. And everything about it is designed for me to get involved with other people.
Yeah.
And so doing that, there was this fear of rejection, fear of all these things of like, oh man, it's kind of I've heard this in recovery is like, if you really see me, if you really knew who I was, you would run away. Yeah. And so trying to avoid that, and then in reality, the irony is that that's actually what I need. And so these small little victories of connection with different men and seeing them actually go, oh man, like I struggle with that too, or oh, like I want to embrace you in that or meet you in that. And there's so many, like I think even now, like I'm still unpacking those layers of just my tendency to hide. And so, but every time I open up with safe people, it's not that it's easy, but it's always worth it. Yeah. I never walked away from a conversation with someone that I trust, kind of, this is what I'm dealing with. I've never walked away from that going, oh man, like I should not have done that.
Yeah.
And so, and it's got to be with safe people, right? That's where you got to have wisdom in that. But
yeah, it's the right people. But as you're talking, man, there's two thoughts that come to mind. Is that even going back to the garden, mm-hmm. if you crack your Bible open to Genesis 1 and 2, one of the things that you'll see is that God didn't create man and then step away.
Yeah.
In Genesis, it says that Adam and his wife Eve walked together with God in the cool of the day in the garden, mm-hmm. which that's a neat thing. I wish we had time to unpack that. Yeah. But the idea is that God designed us for connection with him. Mm-hmm. We are created for connection, mm-hmm. connection with God, connection with each other, and the ability to know our own selves too. Mm-hmm. And even with that, you think about how one of Jesus's names in the Bible is Emmanuel, mm-hmm. God with us.
Yeah.
And so we were created for connection, but also we were designed for belonging mm-hmm. with other people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about how in my own dysfunction, in my cycle of insanity, how quickly I can let my own shame drive disconnection mm-hmm. and convince me that I don't belong.
Yeah.
And so what I love about Celebrate Recovery is so much of what we do is designed to remind us that we are connected to each other, mm-hmm. that we need each other, and hey, if you're doubting it at all, you belong here.
Yeah.
Whether that's through the introductions that we do to remind us that we're not alone, whether that's through the life change stories that we share in the mm-hmm. large group time, whether that's through sitting in a group of fellow strugglers, whether that's getting into service and knowing I belong here because I'm here mm-hmm. to greet, I'm here to hand out chips, mm-hmm. I'm here to be a part of this. They need me. Like mm-hmm. we need each other. Mm-hmm. Connection is this idea of finally bridging the gap between me trying to do things in my own way and connecting us to a body of people that are going to point us to the encouragement of Jesus.
Yeah.
And help foster connection with God and others. Mm-hmm. And as we heal, we start to learn our own hearts.
Yeah, and I think, in some ways, we talk about connection as the opposite of addiction. That's a phrase that we talk about a little bit in recovery.
Yeah.
I think you could also say the opposite of connection is pride. Because I think what is pride? It's like I can do this on my own, or I think for me, pride says, like I don't need to go to a meeting. Like I don't need to go share my stuff. Like I don't need to talk. I don't need to call someone. Like I don't want to bother them. It's like, and by the way, for me, that's always like, it's not about me not wanting to bother them. It's because I just don't want to do it. It's like it's about me. It's like that pride is so ingrained of just in that part of me that just says, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
And that fights against how God designed me. Like, I can't do this on my own. I'm not supposed to do this on my own. Like, the lie in my head says not just that I should do it on my own, is that I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's actually not true. Like, that's not how God designed us.
Well, and it's interesting that you talk about pride, because there's two sides of the pride coin.
Mm-hmm.
There's self-righteousness, which is this idea that I'm not broken enough to need help.
Yeah, overinflation.
It's like I'm fine, it's okay. But then there's the other side of it, which is self-pity. And I'll tell you, this is probably my drug of choice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Self-pity is, man, I am so broken that connection isn't even possible for me.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you, if you're living in either of those two places, you don't have to stay there. Mm-hmm. We are with you in this together. And there is a place where you can get connected. You don't have to be alone. Mm-hmm. Obviously, just shameless plug, every single Friday night at 7:00 at Fellowship Rogers or at Fellowship Fayetteville. We'd love to see you there. You don't have to do this alone. Mm-hmm. But there's another key part of it. It's not just connection, but there's also this thing called community. And we'll talk about that after the break.
Hey friends. A lot of people find the process of starting recovery scary because they aren't sure how to begin or what to expect. The easiest way to get started is simply to get started. Just take that next right step and go to a CR meeting. Every Friday night, we have our Celebrate Recovery meetings at Fellowship Fayetteville and Fellowship Rogers. At 6 p.m., we have a great meal for connection with other recovery brothers and sisters. Then we meet for large group at 7 p.m., followed by open share groups at 8. Same schedule on both campuses, different teachers, different worship teams, but the same great experience. We'd love for you to join us this Friday night. It's never too late to start or start over again. For more information, go to fellowshipcr.org.
So we talked about connection, the importance of not doing this on our own, not allowing ourselves to continue living in this state of disconnection, even though it's scary, the idea of just stepping out and trying to break our isolation and connect.
Get over our pride.
Get over our pride. Get over our self-pity. Get over the doubt. Mm-hmm. Could we possibly believe that there is a place that I do belong? Mm-hmm. Now there's the community side of it. Michael, how would you draw the distinction between connection and community? Because I think there's a strong distinction between the two. But I know the first time we talked about it, I'm like, it feels like those are the same things. But what's the difference? What's the nuance?
I think for me, one of the differences is connection feels like almost this, I'm choosing to take steps towards someone, or I'm choosing to take steps towards the Lord. I'm choosing to open my arms and step into a Friday night, or I'm stepping into something like that. And then almost I think of community as, okay, the growth then, like the depth. So it's almost like connection's kind of that I'm reaching my hand out, and then community is, okay, someone's grabbing that, and then we're going on a journey together.
Yeah.
You know? And so I think about with the step study, it's like connection might be, all right, I'm going to go ahead and sign up for one, and I'm going to start going down that path. And then community is what happens throughout the course of that. I'm starting to grow closer to these guys, and starting to share my inventory with my sponsor and build. And all of a sudden, now when I feel alone, or I feel scared, or feel overwhelmed, I got 6, 7, 8 guys' numbers in my phone that I can call. And I can reach out to. That's community. That's what community is. It's like I have a community of people now around me that I can reach out to for help and lean on them, because I can't do this alone.
Yeah. Connection is I'm here and I belong.
Yeah.
Community is I'm here and I'm being known.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting, connection involves us getting plugged into a community. Mm-hmm. And as we grow in community, our connection deepens.
Yeah.
And, I think about this idea of like, all right, we're here, we're plugged in. Community is fostering the growth in that connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And,
deepening that connection. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with it, there's a quote by an author and a pastor named Tim Keller that I think kind of highlights the importance of community, especially within recovery, in this idea of being known. He says that to be known but not loved, or no, he says, sorry, let me get it right. He said to be loved but not known is comforting but superficial.
Yeah.
To be known and not loved, that's our greatest fear. It's that whole idea of like, what if they knew me, they'd reject me.
They reject me.
And then he says, but to be fully known and fully loved is exactly what we need. It's a lot like being loved by Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I can think about community within my recovery, and it was so important for me just to show up and get there. But what was so, which was just as important, was making sure that I built connection and community with the people around me. And so I think about the guys in my open share group. I think about the guys that were with me in step study group. I think about my sponsor. I think about my accountability partners and mentors. You've been one of those guys for me. That's been a community piece in my recovery. And I can think about all of those parts in my recovery, man. What about you, man? Is there anything in specific where you had some aha moments of like, oh, I am loved and known, and this community is so valuable?
Yeah, I think about what if I never made that first step towards recovery? What if I never showed up that first night? What if, when I sat down we have the fellowship has a Saturday night church called Mosaic, and my wife and I attend there, but I started going there back in 2017 when I moved up here for a job, and met with a pastor and was just like, I've been struggling and I don't know what to do. And so he connected me with another guy who was a CR guy, and that CR guy said, hey, you should check out CR. So I think about what if I never would have done that. And it's sort of like the It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know, and I would see that, but it's like, what if I'd never been born, and all these like things just start to disappear, all these that you realize. And so I think about that one decision, and I wouldn't have met my sponsor. I wouldn't have met you. I would not have met Rodney. I would not have met, there's the plethora of relationships I have on the worship team, next week we're, my wife and I are getting dinner with a dear couple on the worship team. And it's like, I never would have met them. And it's like all of these things, and so much of my life now is centered around, or is focused just around all the relationships I've built, and not just with CR, but even with my church and community group and all that. And so, I think about what if I hadn't done that? It's like my life would look completely different if I didn't have the community I have. It would, I don't know what I would be doing. Like it would be really, really weird. And so, I honestly can't remember what was your question? It was just
just any specific instances where it's like, oh man, this is the value of being known.
Yeah, and so I think because I know where I was going with that. Is just thinking about, I met with my sponsor yesterday, and sitting there, I take it for granted all the time, but we had such a good conversation. We're going through a book right now. It's focused on like God as our Father, and so, and it was just one of those meetings where I walked away and I was driving home and I was like, man, like he's such a good guy. And I feel like he really is able to kind of understand me and really see me. And I take that for granted, but those moments happen all the time, on whether it's on a Friday night or with accountability partner, or even in the worship experience, someone walking by, giving them a high five, they just picked up a chip, and it's like there's a connection piece right there. It's like, man, we're in this together, And so there's so many little moments like that I take for granted that I forget. It's like, man, if I hadn't humbled myself, because I'm so humble, no. It's like, but if I hadn't humbled myself and gone, no, I need to do this. I'm just going to go, Lord, I feel like this is, and making that choice, which so many people have made, I wouldn't have any of that. I wouldn't have those moments. And so I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah. It's interesting as you talk about your sponsor. I've got a pretty neat sponsor myself. But yeah, I think about walking into recovery, and I get a little emotional thinking about it, but walking into recovery, there really was this sense of, okay, I'm here, I'm connected, I'm in a group now, and they're saying that they're for me.
Yeah.
But once they find out why I'm here, then I'm toast.
Yeah.
And I think about my own sexual shame in my life. I can remember when I finally was able to say I struggle with sexual addiction in my step study. And there was a part of me where I'm like, now that that's out there and they know this about me, I'm done.
Yeah.
And they just said, it was a part of my introduction, I struggle with sexual addiction. And they just go, hey, Andy. And they go to the next person. And it was like, oh, they know that. And nobody's giving me side eye. Oh, it's okay to bring my stuff here. And I think about Matthew 11:28-30, where Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And what I love about that passage is Jesus is inviting us to bring all that we are to him. And he's like, the very qualification that we have to come to him in that is that we're weary and burdened.
Yeah.
And like, so we don't have to unburden ourselves. I think of Isaiah 1:18, which is so encouraging, and so through the CR material, where it says, come now, let us settle this matter, says the Lord. Though your sins are as red as crimson, I will make them as white as snow. And it's like, oh, this is what it means to bring this forward. And so it's in community, and this is so key, it's in community that I experience the grace of God through God's people. And it's interesting when you think about, God's not hiding the ball that community is important. When you look at the New Testament, all of the letters that Paul writes, they're to communities for the most part.
Yeah.
We're most of the time in the New Testament, when you see the word you in English, in the Greek, it's a second person plural, which in English is y'all.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Which in the South.
Yeah. And, for me, allowing myself to toe the water into being known, whether that was in step study group, whether that was allowing myself to be gut level honest and open share, what I've experienced is every time before I allow myself to be known, there's shame and fear and doubt that's swirling. And every time after I allow myself to be known, because Celebrate Recovery is such a safe place and such a safe community, that shame is replaced with encouragement and grace. That doubt is replaced with confidence.
Yeah.
That fear is replaced with hope that maybe I can step forward. And it's so key.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, you were talking about the New Testament as well, and it's kind of just even thinking about it now, it's like there's even times where Jesus, he's always with people, but then he goes off, right? It says he goes off, but the interesting thing is that he goes off and spends time with the Father.
Yeah.
So even in him going off and, separating, it was to have connection and community with the Father.
Which is so key. And one of the things that I love about community, and I think we can talk a little bit about this, some of the benefits we get in our recovery towards being plugged into community is we get examples from people that have been on this journey a little bit further than us of what it looks like to walk out these principles and to follow Jesus. And so one of the reasons why I'm developing rhythms like what you just talked about of emulating Jesus as he spends time with the Father is because we see the fruit of that from Rodney and our sponsors and
like, like they're doing that and they're pretty awesome. And
Yeah.
it's like, maybe I could be like that. Or, what are you guys doing? Well, it's spending time with God and spending time with others. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And so we get these godly examples that we can start to emulate our life. I remember whenever I was in college, I struggled with a pornography addiction, never really took it seriously enough to get serious help. But there always was at times this kind of sense of me and my friends going, hey, I struggle with this. You struggle with this? Yeah, we all struggle with this. And it was kind of like, all right, well, let's do something about it. And doing something about it meant meeting once, knowing that none of us knew what we were doing, and then stopping meeting. I needed somebody, I needed a wiser, more experienced person that had already worked through some of their cycles of insanity to point out mine in my life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that without engaging in community. I think one of the other things with that is we get people that speak into our life.
Yeah.
And so, man, how have you seen that in your life?
Oh, I mean, I've had my very first step study, there was a young guy in there that was about my age, about a year younger. And after our first step study, he said, he reached out to me and said, hey, we used to work together. And he said, hey, let's, could we start meeting, once a month, couple times a month, whatever. And that's turned into, we've met twice a month for the last 7 years. And he is someone, also does ministry, but he is someone that I've always just looked forward to our times together. Cause one, we're just really brutally honest with each other of just, this is what happened the last couple of weeks. This is where I'm at. This is what's going on. And there's kind of this, and one of the things that's been a really special thing of us both being in ministry is we also have that connection piece of just, oh, you get it. And then also me sharing something with him and then him going, and you just see that kind of nod, just like, and then he goes, I know exactly what you're like. I know exactly what, and then he says something and go, yeah, that's like what I'm talking about. That's what I'm thinking and feeling. And all of a sudden it's just like, it's literally that reaching out and then someone going, hey, I got you, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I have support. And even if we, and very rarely do we have these like, oh man, we come up with all the solutions to all of our problems, but I always walk away from those times with him. And there's others, I could give other examples of other people, but I always walk away from times with him just thinking to myself, like, okay, like I can do this. Like I can do this. I can take the next right step. And sometimes I go into those meetings with him just tired, weary, worn out. But I always step away going, okay, like I got this, not that, I got but it's like, man, I can do this. And so it's just encouragement and gives me a little bit that almost kind of that shot in the arm to go, okay, like I can do today. I can do tomorrow, Lord, thanks for connecting me with him. So.
Yeah, man, without community, I know for me, I don't get the encouragement to keep me going when I'm feeling down. I also don't get kind of the holy sandpaper. The kick in the butt that I need to keep moving forward when I'm feeling stuck. But more than anything, I know that whatever I'm carrying, I don't have to carry alone.
Yeah. And to that point, man, it just got me thinking too as well. I know we're probably getting close to wrapping this up, but it's like I have so many different people in my life. I can't rely on just one aspect of community to check all the boxes of what I need as a human.
Yes.
Right? It's like you're talking about the holy sandpaper made me think of this. Like my sponsor is great for that. Like, but he's also loving and gracious and kind. But he also is kind of like, hey, are you noticing this?
Yeah.
And versus like that other guy that I was meeting with, he does that as well. But a lot of times that is, man, I someone in it with me. And then I have like the community group I'm in with church. It's like those guys, man, it's more of like, I get to just hang out and be myself and kind of laugh and be goofy. And I kind of get that friendship piece in there. But then I also have like the people that I work with, which are kind of like all the above of all those things. And then I have my wife, who that just the really deep emotional, connection. And then it's just all these different kind of communities all around me. Friday nights, the people that I meet with for breakfasts and lunch, it's like all of these are kind of helping create this holistic approach to health.
Yeah.
And that's recovery.
Exactly. And I love that, man. Well, and I think one important spot to kind of land the plane on all of this is connect. Pardon me. One really important spot to land the plane is knowing that connection and community are so key to what we do here.
Yeah.
But the reason why they're so key is because they continually point us towards the source and the power and the ability to change that is found only in Jesus.
Yeah, the creator of community and connection.
Exactly.
He's literally the originator of it. All of it should point back to him.
Exactly. And what I love so much is that this was Jesus's design for us to live in connection and community together so that we could point each other towards Jesus. Michael, somebody listening to this right now, and maybe they're in that point of trying to make that decision of leaning into community and connection. What would you say to their heart right now, man?
I would say there's always risk in everything, right? There's that part of me that, again, there was like, man, I'm kind of putting myself out there that feels a little risky. And I would say anything worth anything takes a little bit of risk.
Oof.
I mean, anything that's worth anything, you're gonna have to have a little bit of risk out there. And I can tell you, and I'm sure you would say, and so many people, it's worth it.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it's so worth it. And just right around the corner of that risk is the reward. And so, but I got to, and God will give you, if you say, Lord, I'm just going to trust you in this. Like, God's not going to disappoint you. He's not going to let you down. And so, and I think what you'll realize, and I think what I realized, is that the risk was not quite what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be this, and really it was like, okay, that was hard, but man, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah.
And so anything worth anything is worth a little bit of risk. And so, and you can make that choice. You really can.
I love that, man. Well, this has been a really rich conversation, man. And so, Michael, thanks so much for being here and sharing with us, man. And to those of you that are listening to this and you're in this place of, man, I feel disconnected, I feel alone, I question whether or not I belong, we promise you there's a safe place for you to find healing and hope, belonging, connection, and community right here at Celebrate Recovery. Please come check it out any Friday night, 7 o'clock at Fellowship Rogers or Fellowship Fayetteville. We'd love to be there with you and walk with you no matter what you're carrying and point you towards the same Jesus that has taken our burdens to, the one that promises us that if we're weary or burdened, we can come to him. We can find rest, healing, and hope. We love you. God bless you. And we'll see you soon.